Yeah, all right. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا يا أرحم الراحمين. So inshallah, today we will continue with this hadith that we started and we stopped in the middle of that hadith last time. And there's a small chance we'll be able to get through the whole 42 hadith. We'll give it a shot. I'm not sure it will work. But let's get started and see where we go. If we didn't finish today, inshallah, next week certainly we'll be done with the 42 hadith. I have the material mostly for the whole 42 hadith, but depends on how much, we have to comment on them. So we were commenting on and reading this hadith, which on the authority of Sayyidina Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, whoever of you sees an evil must then change it with his hand. If he's not able to do so, which means with his hand, then he must change it with his tongue, which means he needs to engage it and try to right that wrong with his tongue, verbally. And if he is also not able to do so, then he must change it with his heart. And the heart, and that is the slightest of faith. So we went a little bit into the hadith and then we stopped at a flow chart that we read part of it, and today we will complete it. And then, so this is the part that we did read. I'm not going to repeat it because, well, actually, let's do it quickly so that if someone was not here last time. So these are different scenarios of when does this hadith apply and how does it apply. So case one, if the person believes that he can actually remove the evil and he fears no harm, but changing it will lead to a greater evil. What does he do? Should he apply this hadith and go ahead with his hand and try to right that wrong, even though the consequences of it is even more dire? So the answer is the person is capable in this case, but he does not change the evil due to its negative consequence. This is fairly straightforward. So scenario two, the person can remove the evil with no fear of himself or herself being harmed, but with an expectant equivalent evil. Okay, so like as if you're just trading evils, one to the other of the same magnitude. Net, there's no benefit in the end. So this person is capable, and here it's a matter of ijtihad to determine what is best. Now, I don't know if we can raise the volume. All right. Case number three, the person does not have the knowledge to recognize whether or not the act that he's witnessing is an evil act or not. Again, this is pretty simple. He is not qualified or capable of stopping that act. Case four, the person can remove the evil without any resultant evil. He only fears verbal abuse. So fearing verbal abuse is not a reason for a person not to change the munkar. He is fully capable of removing evil, and he falls under the command of this hadith. Verbal abuse does not excuse him to move to the next level, which is the lower level. So he stays with the main level where he needs to go and change it with one's tongue. So he goes and maintains it with his hand. Okay. So these were the cases that we quickly went over last time. These are new cases. Let's see what they have. Let me make it a little bigger. Case 5. The person has the physical ability to act, but he believes that his action will not result in removing or lessening the evil, and he expects that he will be harmed in the process. So the answer to this person is considered not capable, and he moves to the next level of removing the evil by his tongue. So he has the physical ability, but he expects to be harmed. Now, obviously, being harmed is different from one person to another. If that person can tolerate the harm that he will receive, then he stays in the main level. But if he cannot tolerate that harm, then he should not pursue it. There's a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا يحل للمسلم أن يذل نفسه. It's not allowed for a Muslim to humiliate himself. So he was asked, وكيف يذل نفسه? And he was asked, how would a Muslim humiliate himself? And the answer by the Prophet ﷺ, he said, يتعرض لما لا يطيقه من البلاء. He exposes himself to an amount of harm that he cannot accommodate. So if someone knows what his threshold is and remains within the threshold, then this hadith continues to govern his action. But if that harm that's going to be imposed on him is beyond that what he can tolerate, and this differs from one person to the other, then he is allowed to go and not to try to change things by hand, but to change it verbally. All right, are we good? 6, the person can stop or lessen the evil, and he fears no harm or resultant evil. This person is fully capable, and he falls under the command of this hadith. It's obvious. He must change the evil by his hand. I will comment a little bit more, but I just want to get the PDF done. All right. As this PDF has been sent to class, so you should have copies of. Case 7. The person believes that he cannot stop the evil by acting, but he also fears no harm or resultant evil. So he sees something wrong, and he said, well, even if I say or do something, nothing's going to happen. It's going to stay the same. What would you expect here he's supposed to do? Should Muslims be passive? He shouldn't be passive. So even if he thinks that nothing's going to happen, he is required and obligated to try to change it, even if nothing is going to happen, as long as he fears no harm. So this person is not completely capable. Some scholars say that he must still act, and this is the favorable opinion, while others say that it is simply recommended. Case number 8, the person can remove the evil, but he knows that harm will come to him if he does act. This person is not fully capable of removing the evil by his hand, and he may resort to removing it by his tongue. However, if he does act, he will be rewarded. And this is a little bit like a little variation of what I just said, is that to the level of the harm that he can tolerate and absorb. So if he still moves forward, as we know, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر. The best of struggle and jihad is the word of truth in front of a tyrant ruler. Why? Because that person fears and expects that he might be killed by what he's going to do. But that is something that is required in order to keep checks and balances in the Muslim Ummah. If everybody fears saying anything, then nothing is going to change, and the evil is just going to expand. However, if there are people who are going to move forward and say something and going to get harmed with it, then that's okay. One of the scholars, Sa'id ibn Musayyib from Medina at the time, when Bani Umayyah were ruling, and Medina was almost like a revolt kind of city against Bani Umayyah. At that time, the Emir of Medina was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. He had not yet been Khalifa, he was still an Emir on Medina. And I forgot what the name of the Khalifa from Bani Umayyah came to Medina, because obviously they were in Damascus, but he came to Medina. And they emptied the whole Masjid al-Nabawi. There was not even a single soul in Masjid al-Nabawi, except one person, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib. Sa'id ibn Musayyib is one of those, strict, very observant, very pious scholars. He's like very famous and very known for his scholarly work. And at the same time, just on a side note, he is the husband of Abu Huraira's daughter. So Sa'id ibn Musayyib, he was sitting in the masjid alone. And then the Khalifa came and he walked in Masjid Nabawi, and Sayyidina Umar ibn Aziz was chaperoning him, walking with him. And they saw like there's a person who's sitting over there alone, and he did not come and say salam to the Amir. And Umar ibn Aziz told the Khalifa, please forgive him. This person has like weak eyesight. He doesn't see very well. His vision is weak. And the Khalifa says, no, we know that's Sa'id ibn Musayyib and he hates us. So the fact that some people are willing to expose themselves to, to punishment that did not change anything. And Sa'id ibn Musayyib and other people are like that. Sa'id ibn Jubayr is another person who also faced off with Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, who's the worst tyrant in the whole Ummah Muslim, Allahu A'lam, and he got killed at the end. So those are the type of people that they feel that they don't even have the option to go back. If they see something wrong, they would have to say something wrong, even if it costs them. And they are the one whose biographies will be carried over. But all of the other people who decided to go from changing it from one level to the lower and play it safe, who are they? We don't know. No, we don't know who they are. They just got folded in history. But only the people who stood up and paid with their own blood to try to rectify a corrupt situation are those who the history will remember them.
All right, let's do this now. The beginning. Right. That's right.
So we are still quickly in this hadith, hadith number 34. Whoever of you sees evil. So we read this part. Okay, we go this part. All right, quickly. So, Man ra'a minkum munkaran, whoever of you sees evil, he should change it. This is an order, it's not like a suggestion or recommendation. Let's understand that. And second, what is munkar? Munkar is either someone committing something haram or someone who is not doing something that's obligatory. Very simple. And you are required to attempt changing evil, and achieving the result is not on you. So we saw that with some of the scenarios that passed. And sometimes there's a collective obligation, which means when there's something that needs to be rectified, and there's multiple people who can do it, one of them or some of them should change it. It's not specifically on you or on me, it's collective, fard kifaya. And when someone does it, then the remaining people are absolved of it. But not all the time. I'll give you an example of one fard kifaya. Let's flip the coin. Let's say a family member does not pray. But if his father or mother told him, hey, you must pray, any one of them, he will do it. So it doesn't matter who tells it, is it the father or the mother? One of them must tell that child, you have to pray, it's obligatory on you. It's not specifically who it is. And so that would be a sample. You can obviously see a different example, but this is just a practical one. Even if the receiving party won't respond, the obligation remains. We've already said that. And they said that it's a matter of ijtihad, but the favorable opinion is that you still have to do it. It is not necessary for you to be perfect for the obligation to take effect. For example, a father smokes and he sees his son smoking. No, it's obligation on the father to tell his son, you cannot smoke. And he has to force him, he can take it off from his hand and do whatever is required to stop him. The son's gonna say, hey, you smoke. Say, none of your business. That's between, I'm struggling on my own. But as your father, I'm not gonna let you smoke. It's not the father, he should never think that, well, because I smoke, I cannot tell him not to smoke. Or if you can take it like even praying, let's say a father does not pray, and in the back of his mind, like he wished that he had adapted that habit since he was a young person, he wanted his son to pray. The fact that the father does not pray does not absolve him from asking his son. And regardless, a person is not required to be perfect in order to adopt this concept. Yes, this is not only the government's obligation, but also individuals. Obviously, there's some certain stuff that only the government takes care of enforcing, but on a micro level, each one of us is required to do his own or her own little thing. Yes, subject matters are those that by consensus are declared to be haram. So when does a person is required to intervene and try to change is when the matter is of consensus that this is haram to be engaged in, or it's a farad and this person is not do it. But other things that are in between, you cannot go and try to enforce your own opinion on something that the different mazahib has different opinion on it. So in other words, you have to have some level of knowledge about what you are trying to rectify, knowledge, before you actually engage in it. And I think this is the last point in here. Yes, changing the evil must be done wisely. And this is similar to what we said before, that sometimes a person tries to change the evil and ends up with a bigger evil or with a different evil. No, that's required the person. It does not need to be changed immediately, but you have to think about it and do it immediately. And notice.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Can you give an example of where changing an evil leads to a greater? I'm just not understanding.
Where changing a small evil might lead to a bigger one, right? Well, we see this often in one political system in some of the countries is not a political system that is even close to being good. It's way beyond par. When someone tries to rectify it and they end up destroying the whole city. Okay, so you have to see what the reaction of the party that you are trying to tell them to change or to force them into certain directions, and they are intent on not allowing that to happen.
Like, is that, for example, is that something like, if you have a government that's not Islamic, that isn't Quranic, then maybe doing things against Islam, but to protest against, they try to change it by revolution.
You could make this, scenario as big or as small. You can even make this example in a building where you have a neighbor who is doing certain things haram. Let's say that neighbor is very mentally imbalanced, and if you tell them stop doing one thing, he's going just to tick you off. He's going to do something that's even more bad than what he's doing. So the examples really are plentiful, and how somebody might react to what you're doing them, what you're telling them by doing something that's even worse. Allah. So changing the evil must be done wisely. All right. We're still in the same hadith. Yeah, and if it's not only in things that I mentioned that you are involved in, but even if you're passively in the market and you see somebody who's selling something that has a defect in it, and he's trying to deceive the buyer, and you know that this item is not good, so you are required to go and step in and alert about the person who is buying that, you're being tricked over here. So you cannot just say, well, these are doing their own business transaction. I have nothing to do with it. You have to step forward. It's an obligation on you. And remember, the lowest level is وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ, which is in the heart. If someone his heart is neutral, then there's a problem with his iman, because the heart needs to be sensitive to what's happening outside. And even if you're not capable of doing anything by hand or anything by your tongue and verbally, at least in your heart you must hate the haram and you must want to enforce the good. And if you see things around you that are haram, that are happening, and the obligatory things not taking place, and you feel that you are not involved in it, or you're not a part of it, or you don't even care about it, then there's a problem in our hearts. Our hearts should always be aching when we see things around us that needs to be corrected. And this is what this hadith points to in the lower level, is that وَذَلِكَ ضَعْفُ الْإِيمَانِ. So if a person does not have that lowest level, then there's a problem with his heart. Yes, and even though we are supposed to stop corruption and to stop people from doing bad through this, but it does not mean that it gives people the capacity to go and track other people and spy on them. No, this is more on, as Sayyidina Umar said, نحن نحكم بالظاهر والله يتولى السرائر. We judge people by what we see, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who judges the inner selves of people. All right. We go to the hadith 34, move to the other one. We spent a lot of time, but this is the biggest hadith, the longest hadith, and the one that has the most commentary in the book, so it really deserves as much. And all the hadiths are really entangled with each other. We'll come back to this hadith indirectly later on as we move forward. So hadith 35 is لا تحاسدوا, do not be envious of one another. فعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تحاسدوا ولا تناجشوا. Can you still hear? Okay.
ولا تناجشوا
ولا تباغضوا ولا تدابروا ولا يبع بعضكم على بيع بعض وكونوا عباد الله إخوانا. المسلم أخو المسلم لا يظلمه ولا يخذله ولا يهبه ولا يحقره. التقوى ها هنا. ويشير صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى صدره 3 مرات. بحسب امرئ من الشر أن يحقر أخاه المسلم. كل المسلم على المسلم حرام دمه وماله وعرضه. هذا حديث رواه مسلم، الإمام مسلم في صحيحه. All right. I think I'm going to have someone read the English part. Can we use this microphone? Someone here would like to read the English part? On the authority of Abu Hurairah.
On the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, do not be envious of one another, do not artificially raise prices against one another, do not hate one another, do not turn one's back on each other, and do not undercut one another in business transactions. And be, O servants of Allah, brethren, a Muslim is the brother of a Muslim, he does not wrong him.
There's a second part. He does not wrong him. Okay.
He does not fail him when he needs him. He does not lie to him, and he does not show contempt for him. Piety is here, and he pointed to his chest 3 times. It is enough of evil for a person to hold his brother Muslim in contempt. All of a Muslim is inviolable, to another Muslim, his blood, his wealth, and his honor, recorded by Muslim.
So obviously, this word comes from violation. He cannot violate them. All right. Do not be envious. What is envy? Can we have a suggestion? What is envy? We know envy is hasad in Arabic. What does it actually mean? What's envy? What hard action a person engages to say that he is envious?
Isn't it when you desire something like someone else has and you want them to not have it as well?
Okay, that's very close. You don't have to have it yourself. As long as you wish that the bounty of Allah that He bestowed on someone is taken away. Even if you don't get it, then that's envy. Okay, so why? Because this is someone who is unhappy with the destiny of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's exactly what envy is that when somebody hates the bounties when they are bestowed from Allah on somebody else. It doesn't matter. And that's even worse if he wishes that that bounty is taken away. Like if you hate it, but it's still there, is one thing. But if you also hate, wanted to depart from that person, like that's getting the ball out of the park with envy and with sin. And it's a major sin, right? So the Muslims never should have envy among each other. And the second thing is, وَلَا تَبَاغَضُوا. Do not hate each other. Can somebody give me a little bit more elaboration? Like, is it like, what does it mean, don't hate each other? It's something a little bit more than, is hate the action or it's the result? Like, can you just, like a guy passing by, just hate him like this? No, but if he did something to you that caused you to hate them, the Prophet said,
like the idea that you're supposed to give your brother or your sister like 1,000 excuses, like in case the thing happens, you don't,
this is unforgiveness. But hating each other is that don't do things that cause you to hate each other. The Prophet is just talking about the result, but actually what he intends to say is that do not commit into actions that result in you hating each other. So you have to be sensitive, you have to be, as we say now, emotionally intelligent to know that if you do something, that's going to, to cast a negative shadow in the eyes of your brothers and sisters on you. So you have to, again, to judge your action that, okay, I'm gonna do this because that person's gonna hate it, and he's gonna hate me for it. So that's about don't hate each other. It's not mean that I hate you or I hate you. No, like I'm not supposed to do something that you're gonna hate me for it, and vice versa. Like, so envy is hoping for Allah's bounty on someone to be taken away, or if you hate it. I should have be a little bit more accurate in my wording. Not necessarily to be taken away, that's the worst case, but just hating the bounty being with somebody else and not with you. That hasad. To hate it means to engage in action that leads to it. Najash, وَلَا تَنَاجَشُوا. And in English, he just explained it in a long phrase, but what actually means is deception and deceiving, and it's specifically in trade. And usually, if you go to the scholar's book, they would say, like somebody who's trying to raise the price of a certain commodity with collaboration with the seller, so that a passerby who wants to buy that will buy it at a raised price. So it's kind of almost like price gauging. And do not turn your backs to each other. It means do not boycott each other and do not fight with each other. It's not just like turn your backs. Obviously, nobody will understand it simply like that. But it also means do not fight. It's not only do not boycott each other and remain in communication with each other. All right. To the hadith or to the bullet?
Can you expand on the second point?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "La tabaghadu." Tabaghadu is from the root word bughd. Bughd, which means hate. Do not hate each other. It means do not do anything that causes people to hate each other. Even like, for example, you promise someone to help him with something and you never show up. Okay, and he's going to hate you for that. Apart from it, like you broke your promise, but it caused something to another person, or, similar thing that someone's supposed to do, or, there's many examples. All of that causes another person to feel bitter about it and then hate another person. Okay? Moving on. Okay, Hadith 36. Arabic? Anyone who wants to try his Arabic muscle? I see your hand moving. You cannot back away from that. Can I have the microphone, please? Jazakallah khair. Is it on? Okay, good.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: من نفس عن مؤمن كربة من كرب الدنيا نفس الله عنه كربة من كرب يوم القيامة. ومن يسر على معسر يسر الله عليه في الدنيا والآخرة. ومن ستر مسلما ستره الله في الدنيا والآخرة. والله في عون العبد ما كان العبد في عون أخيه. ومن سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. وما اجتمع قوم في بيت من بيوت الله يتلون كتاب الله ويتدارسونه بينهم إلا نزلت عليهم السكينة وغشيتهم الرحمة وحفتهم الملائكة وذكرهم الله في من عنده. ومن بطأ به عمله لم يسرع به نسبه. رواه مسلم بهذا اللفظ.
All right, English speakers. Thanks. English. Can you see?
On the authority of Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him, from the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, who said, whoever relieves a believer's distress of the distressful aspects of this world, Allah will rescue him from a difficulty of the difficulties of the hereafter. Whoever alleviates the situation of one in dire straits who cannot repay his debt, Allah will alleviate his lot in both this world and the hereafter.
So you see, sometimes when they translate in English, they take one of the possible meaning and they use here. For example, here they spoke only about like making it easy for someone who's in debt and his debt is due. So and you give them extra time, which definitely is one of the possible meanings. But the Arabic sentence is much more broad and much more comprehensive. So you have always to read a little bit more in the commentary to know what other possibilities are there. All right.
Whoever conceals the faults of a Muslim, Allah will conceal his faults in this life and the hereafter. Allah is helping the servant as long as the servant is helping his brother. Whoever follows a path in order to seek knowledge, thereby, Allah will make easy for him, due to it, a path to paradise. No people gather together in a house of the houses of Allah, reciting the book of Allah and studying it among themselves, except that tranquility is descended upon them. Mercy covers them, the angels surround them, and Allah makes mention of them to those in His presence. Whoever is slowed by his deeds will not be hastened forward by his lineage. Recorded by Muslim with that wording.
All right, so those people who are gathered in the house of Allah, reciting the book of Allah and studying it, that tranquility is descended upon them and mercy covers them. Are we talking here about they are feeling tranquil, or that angels will bring tranquility, to the environment they are in? Obviously, it could mean more than one thing, but probably the most favorable meaning of this is that the persons themselves will be saturated with this serenity and tranquility. So after they leave this majlis, they will feel this calmness they have because of their iman growing, inshallah. And here the angels surround them, okay? And Allah will make mention of them. وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِنْدَهُ. As we explained one time before, that the word dhikr should not be translated as remember. And here Allah make mention. This is ذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ. It's not Allah will remember them, Allah will mention them to those in His presence, master angels or prophets and what have you. All right. So to conceal the shortcomings of someone known to be Muslim, man satara ala muslimin, satara Allahu alayhi fid dunya wal akhirah. So what does it mean? What does it mean, satara Allahu ala muslim? It means if you see someone committing a sin, you just like keep it between you and him, or even if he doesn't know, you don't go and expose him. But how and why? Aren't we supposed to be correcting things when we see them happening? Yes, we see them happening. But this applies for a person who is a good Muslim in general, and you find out that he did something bad. You don't go and expose him. You just like keep it under the lid and just let it pass, because in general, this is a good person. Unlike if a person is a corrupt person and he does something bad, no, you try to go and maybe change it, stop him by hand, verbally, in a way that will make him, move away from those sins. So the way that you make sitr, the way that you conceal, is depends on the person that you are dealing with in here. So in general, this hadith, man satara ala Muslim, it means a common Muslim who is in general is a good Muslim. If the same good Muslim plans to commit a sin and you know about it, or is engaged in one, then Hadith 34 will kick in. Remember, we said we're going to refer to it later on. So even if he's a good Muslim, but he has a weak point in time and he's going towards a bad place, and you know about it, then you go and you stop him. If you don't say like, okay, I'm going to make a concealment, I'm going to cover up for him, I'm going to turn the blind eye. No, you don't. You still have a role to do, and to be a positive component in the society. Yes, and however, someone known to be corrupt, he is not entitled to have his practices concealed. In general, obviously, as we said before, there's no tracking, no spying. But if someone knows for a fact that inside a certain house there's a sin that's being happening, a group of people are gathering and they're gambling and they're drinking or whatever, then that's a different situation if you know for sure. But if you're not sure, you cannot go peek from their windows to see if they're doing anything. No, it's a fine line, but they are two different situations. They will experience serenity of Solomon, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will mention them among the prophets and master angels. So, as you see, I'm not spending a lot of time and commenting on those hadiths as I did in the first one, because, then we will never be able to finish on time. The book that I mentioned expands quite a bit on it, and I really suggest that you spend time going through it. You have a copy of the PDF. Hadith 37, it's a long hadith. And hadith, Allah katab al-hasanat wa sayyi'at. All right. Someone would like to read Arabic again? It's a long hadith. All right. Nani, we're going to go back to you. It's a long hadith, so I think it's 2.5 pages. Go for it.
عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما يرويه عن ربه تبارك وتعالى قال إن الله كتب الحسنات والسيئات ثم بين ذلك
ثم
بين
أيوه بين
ذلك فمن هم بحنة
حسنة the C is not like obvious.
بحسنة فلم يعملها كتبها الله له عنده حسنة كاملة فإن هو
هم بها
هم بها فعملها كتبها الله له عنده 10 حسنات إلى
100.
مئة.
So this word in Arabic, even though it has an alif in here, but this is alif is not pronounced. So you go إلى 700. It's not 700 or 100. You cannot even pronounce it. طيب.
ضعفا إلى أضعاف كثيرة وإن هم بسيئة فلم يعملها كتبها الله له عنده حسنة كاملة فإن هم بها فعملها كتبها الله سيئة واحدة رواه البخاري ومسلم في صحيحهما بهذه الحروف.
يعني exactly like that. Even though this hadith in particular, in this version, there's no harakat mistakes in the typing, but in the other ones there were. So at the end of this course, inshallah, this class, I will send you a PDF with the accurate 40 nawawi with the correct punctuation, so that you can depend on that one, because there's a lot of mistakes in some of those. All right, English? Someone? No. Okay.
They take exam.
No, there's a longer one. There's no way they're gonna just giving it to you now.
On the authority of Ibn Abbas, Allah be pleased with him, with both of them, on the authority of the Messenger of Allah, and Allah's blessing and peace be upon him, from among the sayings that he related from his Lord, glorified and exalted be he.
So this is what we call Hadith Qudsi, right? Hadith Qudsi is the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ narrates from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not the Prophet ﷺ meaning, it's inspired to him, but the words are from Allah, from the Prophet, and the meaning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now,
Is that he said, verily Allah recorded the good deeds and the evil deeds. Then he clarified how that recording should occur. Whoever decided to do a good deed, but he did not do it, Allah records it with him as a complete good deed. And if he decided to do it and actually did it, Allah records it with him as 10 good deeds, up to 700 times, up to many times over. If he decided to do an evil deed, but he did not do it, Allah records it with him as one complete good deed. If he decided to do it and he actually did it, Allah records it as one evil deed.
recorded by Bukhari and Muslim. So just a very simple hadith. It's a longer hadith, but it's a very simple idea in it. So simplest idea is that intention is very important. Sometimes there's things that you have an ambition to achieve, but you're not so sure you can even achieve it, but you have the intention to do it, and you start with it, you fail along the way because you didn't have the capacity. But if you have the intention, you are going to be rewarded by the intention. So don't cheap out on the intention. Try even something that you cannot achieve, attempt it and have the intentions for it, you will get the reward for it. Right? So the importance of intention, even if we don't think we can achieve that target. If failed, if somebody wanted to, because the hadith says if somebody has the intention to go and do a sin, and then he decided that he doesn't want to do it, and he gets actually a positive deed for it. But this does not apply here. Fail to achieve the sin because of an element, then this does not fall under this hadith. private angels have access to our thoughts and intentions and record them, and we have to respect that and keep, be aware of it and be careful of it. All right. This also the hadith just says if somebody does a good deed, not only it's 10 times as most people would say, it's like up to 700, up to many different folds. Right. This hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari 38 عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال صلى الله عليه وسلم من عادى لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب وما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي مما افترضته عليه ولا يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل حتى أحبه فإذا أحببته كنت سمعه الذي يسمع به وبصره الذي يبصر به ويده التي يبطش بها ورجله التي يمشي بها ولئن سألني لأعطينه ولئن استعاذني لأعيذنه. هذا الحديث رواه البخاري. And out of the 6 books, famous 6 Sunan books and Hadith books, only Al-Bukhari narrated this hadith. So on the authority of Abu Hurairah, who said, the Messenger of Allah upon Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Almighty has said, whoever has a mutual animosity with a friend, wali of mine, I declare war upon him. This is not very clear at what is intended in here. We have this concept in Sufism that there's something called awliya. Awliya are considered to be like highly pious people that are role models and people follow them and they are like big shuyukh and what have you. So they call them awliya and everybody else is not wali. So sometimes say, where are you going? It says, my sheikh is wali. Okay, this is a more cultural kind of, a title, but in Islam, even though this is acknowledged to a certain limited degree, but the area, the verse of the Quran that says, Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. So is this limited to a certain number of people, or Allah wali everybody? ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. This covers all of Muslims. All of the awliya, in certain sense, the good Muslims are also considered to be awliya. It doesn't have to be someone who is up there and level. That one is granted, okay, but we're saying that it's not limited there. So anyone who is, trying to challenge or become an enemy of a good Muslim, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say that he is at war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's only with that person. Man aada li waliyan. Aada min adu, and to be an enemy. And whoever takes an enemy, one of my awliya, then faqad azantuhu bil harb. I am announcing to him that there is war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the English is not very clear, as clear as obviously the Arabic is. So whoever has, I'm not sure where this mutual came in, whoever has animosity with a wali of mine, I declare war upon him. Man aada li waliyan faqad azantuhu bil harb. I hope it's a little bit clear. ولا يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل حتى أحبه. My servant does not draw near to me with anything more beloved to me than the religious duties that I have imposed upon him. بالعربي ولا يزال عبدي, my servant continues, يتقرب إلي, coming closer to me بالنوافل, ولا يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي وما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي مما افترضته عليه. There is nothing that my servant can come close to me better than things that I obligated on him. Here it says imposed, but we're talking about بما افترضته عليه. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He has put things that are obligatory, like fasting, like salat, like Hajj and those things, and those are the most favorable for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the person to come close to Allah. So someone, if he wants to get, on the fast lane towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not through the voluntary action. First of all, they have to know what are the obligations on this person, and by doing those obligations, this is the fast lane to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افترضته عليه. The things that I obligated on him are the things that are the most beloved for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But once you finish that, then we come to the next level. And my servant continues to draw near to me with voluntary work, supplicatory works, such that I love him. وَلَا يَزَالُ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أُحِبَّهُ. And he continues to come close to me with nawafil, with voluntary things, until I continue to love him. And when I love him, I am his hearing, with which he hears, and his seeing or vision, with which he sees, and his hand, with which he strikes, and his leg, with which he walks. Which means, when that person reaches to that level, he does not allow his vision to go to anything that's haram. He does not allow his tongue to talk with anything, his ear to listen to anything haram, his hand to do anything haram. He doesn't use his legs and goes to places that are haram. Why? Because now he is totally focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, incarnating him. This is not the intention. This is metaphorical. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to say, were he to ask me, I would surely give him. وَإِنْ سَأَلَنِي لَأَعْطِيَنَّهُ. And if he asks me, I will give him. And were he to ask me for refuge, وَلَا إِسْتَعَاذَنِ. If he asked my help and he took refuge in me, I surely would grant him that refuge. So this is one of the hadith that is only in Sahih al-Bukhari. And I just want to say a short word in here, is that in the chain of this hadith, there is one narrator that has a question mark on him. He is one of the shuyukh of Imam Bukhari, Khalid ibn Makhlad al-Fatwani. And the scholars have hesitated accepting hadith from that person. However, because he is the Sheikh of Bukhari himself and he met him face to face, they gave Imam Bukhari almost like a permission to allow this hadith to pass, even though the quality of that narrator does not rise to the usual standard that Imam Bukhari required, because Imam Bukhari sat down with him and he knows exactly what his weak points are and what his strong points. But if somebody else was to narrate from the same person, then probably they would not have agreed to take that hadith. But because Imam Bukhari knows him inside out, this hadith was allowed to go inside Sahih Bukhari. I think I want to stop here at hadith number 38, and I think we still have 4 hadiths to finish them next time, inshallah. And after that, we'll see how we're going to do the final, test or exam, if you want to, in order to get credit. If you're not receiving this material by email, please let me know so that we can add your email. And inshallah, next week, which is going to be the 11th of December, will be our last class, inshallah. We'll finish at May 39 to 42 hadith. And with that, I conclude today, unless there's any questions or there's any comments. Inshallah. جزاكم الله خير. And we'll stop here. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I lost track of time. That thing shut down. Yeah, we started a little early, so I'm fine with this. Who is going to shut down the recording?